Spider-Man, Spider-Man. I can't sing it all, but the Spider-Verse is coming, and I am beyond excited for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so I thought appropriate to dive into Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. What did you think of this movie? Let's talk about it in the comments. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my theological analysis for Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2002. It's the year I graduated high school. Anyway, with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse coming out here really soon, and I am beyond excited to see that movie. It looks so good. In the trailers, there were things that looked really similar to like Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2 from the Sam Raimi Trilogy, so I thought, hey, as we build towards the release of Into the Spider-Verse, why not dive back into the Raimi Trilogy, which I've already done Spider-Man 3. You could click the link and check out that video right now, but I thought building up to Spider-Verse, we will dive into these other two Raimi Spider-Man movies. So, in the comments, let me know, what did you think of this movie?
With great power comes great responsibility.
That line is almost cheesy with just how much it's been used and quoted and all that stuff. And it's also really hilarious when you watch The Amazing Spider-Man and some other Spider-Man interpretations and even some other superhero movies where they try to say that line without saying that line because they don't want to like directly rip it off of this trilogy. But there's a reason that that line, with great power comes great responsibility, has just become so utterly iconic. Because it's true. With great power comes great responsibility. But what makes that line even more powerful is the context in which the line is delivered.
These are the years when a man changes into the man he's going to become the rest of his life. Just be careful who you change into.
That is the theme of this movie, the importance of choices, the importance of what we feed our hearts and what's going to come out when the pressure's on. Because to me, that's what this movie's really about. It's about choices. God says in the book of Deuteronomy, I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing, therefore choose life. And what Ben Parker is trying to instill in Peter at the very beginning of this is the importance of choosing life, and choosing life now, in these formative years of his life, when things are going well, before the pressure is really on and the stress of adulthood, right now. And this point of life, make the choice of who you're gonna be, and feed that. So when the pressure's on, that's what comes out. That's what's the strongest. When you look at Norman Osborn, this is a dude who has lived his life in selfish ambition, and he's full of anger and bitterness. That is what he has fed his heart, and that is what you can see he's become.
Bringing you what you've always wanted. Power.
And so what does he do? He does the experiment on himself, not because he's so brave and so noble, but because he's so desperate and so afraid of losing everything. The moment he takes that vapor in and he becomes the Green Goblin, it all happens. He splits right down the middle and he becomes insane. I thought it was so interesting how they split his personality. And you hear the voice in his head, the voice of the Green Goblin. And then you see Norman.
Where are you? Follow the cold shiver running down your spine.
And Norman is so weak and so timid. And when this voice talks, he cowers in its presence. Now, when the Green Goblin talks and you hear that voice in his head, that voice is strong. That voice is confident. That voice is powerful. And it says things like,
To say what you won't. To do what you can't. To remove those in your way.
This is that side of Norman Osborn with all inhibitions removed, and it will do whatever it wants. It will say all those things that Norman has stored up in his heart. Now, the Green Goblin is the side of him that he's fed all of his life, with his selfish ambition, with his greed. In his formative years, it's who he chose to become, and he continued to feed that. And when this power was thrust upon him, when he stole this power for himself, that is the side that had the strength. That is the side that had the power. The side of him that was good, the side of him that didn't want to do wrong by others, was weak, it was cowering, and it was kind of pathetic because it's hungry and it has not been fed. The real Norman inside has lost all control, and it's because he's been feeding that dark side all of his life, and now finally that has been given the light and given the ability to step forward, it steps forward. But then you have Peter Parker, and at every turn, this guy is tempted by Norman Osborn. And that's why I'm just looking at this like this whole thing is about choice and the importance of the identity we choose to put on, the identity that we choose to have. So when you dive into this, you have Norman Osborn tempting Spider-Man on the roof with the temptation to join him on the broad path.
But the one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail, in spite of everything you've done for them. Eventually, they will hate you. Why bother?
The broad path leads to destruction, but it's broad and it's easy, and there are many who find it. And that's why Green Goblin is on it, because it's easy. He picked the easy way, and he's letting him know the truth about the way of the hero, that it's difficult, it's harder, and as these two lock wheels and fight and come up against each other, millions of innocent people will die in their battles as these superhumans come up against each other. But that's how the devil lies. He lies by bringing a tiny germ of the truth to give the lie legitimacy, so that the lie feels like a voice that should be listened to. So when Spider-Man refuses his offer, like twice, refuses this guy's offer, he does what the devil does and goes for Spider-Man's heart. He chose to destroy those that he loves. He chose to try to destroy those that were the closest to him, to destroy him on the inside. That is the enemy's goal. That is the devil's goal. And that is exactly what he wants to do with Spider-Man. And that is exactly what he attempts to do. I mean, when he sits there and he makes Spider-Man have the choice to save MJ in the one hand and all the innocent kids in the other. Why is there a field trip in the middle of the night? Point is, you know, either way, Spider-Man would be destroyed on the inside. If he saved the kids and let MJ die, he would be devastated for losing the love of his life. If he saved MJ and let the kids die, he would be devastated for not doing what might have been the right thing in the greater good and saving all of those kids. No matter what, it was a decision designed to destroy Spider-Man's heart. Again and again, it's about choice and about choosing who we're gonna be. Now here's our hope. Peter Parker, he's our picture of redemption, because he was no saint when he got his powers either. I mean, yeah, he had some fun at first, learned to climb the walls, swing on his webs, and all that fun stuff. So yeah, there was a little bit of that. But my gosh, the first thing he wanted to do was go make a costume, go to that wrestling match so that he could win $3,000 to buy a car to impress MJ. Because she was so impressed by Flash's car, so he wants to go out and get a car and impress her and say, look, I can do this too. As soon as he had the power, he was not thinking about saving the world and the good that he could do. He was thinking of himself and the good that he could do for himself. And because it got really selfish like that, it put him in a bad situation. He was at this wrestling place that he should never have been at. He got Uncle Ben involved in it when he never should have. When he didn't get the money he felt like he deserved, in bitterness, he walked away from the guy that was going to pay him. When that guy got robbed, in bitterness, he let the robber go free. Thanks. That's what bitterness does. And then Uncle Ben is dead. And in that anger, because he now has the power and the ability to do something about it, he goes out to kill the guy he thought killed Uncle Ben, chases the car down, and yeah, even though he doesn't necessarily kill this guy, his imposing presence there as he's running up to that guy to really hurt him, the guy trips over a pipe, falls out a window, and dies. So yes, maybe Peter Parker didn't technically kill him, but because of these series of choices, it kept leading to destruction. Peter started on the broad path, and the broad path led to destruction. But it's never too late. It's never too late for salvation. It's never too late for redemption, because we see that in this movie. He repents, and repents means making an about face. He had started on the broad path, he made an about face and came back, and he chose the narrow path. And when he chose the narrow path, that's when he looked at the picture he had designed of the suit, and instead of seeing it as a wrestler suit to make money, he saw it as a symbol to stop what had happened to him from happening to others. And that's what he became. The hero that we now know, Spider-Man. He chose to be that hero. So it's never too late to repent. It's never too late for redemption. It's never too late for God to make a brand new creature out of you and me. It wasn't even too late for Norman Osborn. Yeah, he would have had some earthly consequences that he would have to attend to because of his choices, but it was never too late for his soul to be saved. It was never too late for his heart to be transformed. But you see, the more he fed that darker side, the harder his heart became, the more cowardly that good part of him became, and the more unable it became to surrender to the light. It only became more and more able to surrender to the darkness. See, this is why it's so critical when things are great in life and things are good to spend time with the Bible, to spend time talking to God. Because as we feed our hearts with that, it gives us life. So then when things are bad, we've already made our choice. We've already made the choice of who we're going to be. We've already made the choice of where we're going to stand. So when things get tough and the pressure's on, we've already filled our heart with the good, and that is what's going to flow out. And honestly, that is what's going to bring victory in the end. We have to choose that victory here, now, today, where we are. If you've been on the broad path, it's never too late. Spider-Man is the illustration. It's never too late. He got his powers and went straight down that broad path and made a huge mistake. And yet, he was redeemed. So, when you watch Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, what do you think of this movie? Can't wait to talk to you about it. Are you excited for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? Let's talk in the comments. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian and hit the bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next theological analysis, movie review, ranking video, trailer reaction, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.